Hi everyone and welcome to the Football Analyst. Today we're going to take a look at Manchester City's recent 2-1 win against Real Madrid in the Champions League. So a few things we're going to look at out of this game was Doku's threat on the left. They really tried to set the game up for Doku to attack 1v1s on the left side, using O'Reilly in a few different situations as well. They also forced Courtois to be the main playmaker out of the back for Madrid. Madrid often tried to play out, but City kind of shut everything down and forced Courtois to make decisions, which he's not comfortable doing. And then lastly, we'll just quickly look at how City were just able to dominate the tempo and what that meant during the game. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it. So Pep set up in his usual 4-3-3 system with Nico Gonzalez sitting deeper as the pivot. This shape provides the perfect platform for the fullbacks to get involved defensively, while still providing cover for them on the counter. Often we could see O'Reilly teaming up with Doku on the left, or Silva and Foden moving across to the right with Cherki and Nunes to try and create overloads on that flank. So oftentimes we saw this kind of duo, O'Reilly inverted with Doku out wide. This allowed O'Reilly to kind of pin a defender, and oftentimes the winger would have to defend Doku 1v1 and he could just blow by them on the wing. And then down here, which we won't really look at, but it's worth mentioning, they kind of created a 4-man sort of ring here, and they were able to play out a lot of the time, particularly to try and hold possession and, maintain tempo of the game, which we will actually touch on a bit later. But without any delay, let's look at the first topic. So we're going to have a look at Doku's threat on the left in particular, and how they were able to maximise his effect on the match. So City gave Madrid big problems on the left-hand side with Doku and O'Reilly. They really tried to use O'Reilly's in inverted positions, in particular to give Doku the opportunity to attack 1v1 down the byline. So often we would see Doku go out wide, Nico O'Reilly come all the way from fullback, and Phil Foden would kind of move across too. So this hopefully gave Doku the chance for 1v1 on that flank, because once O'Reilly moved inverted, it often dragged either the centre-back out, which left space for Haaland to receive on 2 feet, because obviously Rudiger was behind. He couldn't get in front. He's got to maintain that position behind. Or it meant that the fullback had to come back to guard O'Reilly so that this defender, this centre-back, could keep an eye on Haaland. But that meant that Doku, of course, had that 1v1 against the winger, which he could exploit. And this tactic was actually very instrumental in the build-up to both goals, so the lead-up. And we'll take a look at that now. So as we can see in this clip, just the numbers City are willing to move across for Doku. We can see he's kind of already in a 1v1 situation here. I think that's Valverde trying to mark him. And we can see O'Reilly's got the ball and he's in that inverted space. I think on this occasion, well, that is Foden, I think, looking to push forward. But we'll let this play and we'll just take a quick look. So Doku gets the ball. He's able to get that 1v1 because O'Reilly is kind of pinning this defender here. We've got Foden also and Gonzalez kind of pinning defenders so they can't go and double team. None of these players can safely go and double team Doku to give support. So he's often left in a 1v1 situation, which is what City want. And if we let this play, he attacks down the flank, gets the ball in, and this corner is actually the corner for City's opening goal. So this play, just setting up this way to give Doku the chance to attack down that byline, is what actually led to City's opening goal from the corner. Another example we'll look at is just this shot in isolation. So just this still image, and we can see the positioning over O'Reilly here, inverted to draw defenders. See Haaland's tied up this striker as well, the left-hand side striker. If you're City, defender, if you're City, if you're Madrid, he's the right-sided centre-back. Just Haaland's positioning here means this centre-back can't look after O'Reilly. It means that the fullback has to. And just leaves Doku in a whole heap of space here. He's got this whole wing, and they do play the ball across. Nothing comes of it, but it just goes to show how they were setting up the ground for Doku, even with the ball on the other side of the pitch. And we'll go into another example of this. On this occasion, they get Doku in a 1v1, this time against a Ford and Rodrigo, and there really is no match. He really is no match for Doku in a 1v1 situation. So here, again, we can see Foden has come inverted, O'Reilly has come inverted too, so they've kind of exchanged positions. Foden is kind of there to stop the fullback from double teaming, and Guardiola has actually come forward a bit so that this Madrid player kind of has to look after him, because Guardiola is quite capable going forward. So we'll let this play, and as we can see, Doku just stands him up and hits the byline again. The ball goes out for a corner, and they get another set piece, which they've already scored from. So clear tactic to try and attack down this left-hand side. And then the last example is actually the lead into their other goal. So O'Reilly again is inverted. This time Madrid decide to double team. So Rodrigo and the fullback has come to double team. But because they've left O'Reilly, Doku has been able to attack them both, and the ball kind of spills to O'Reilly. But what it's meant is, because O'Reilly was able to get the ball, these defenders have been sucked in to try and stop this. They've sensed the danger. Madrid are trying to cover the ball into Haaland, but because Haaland had been in front of Rudiger, it's meant that there's space here for the ball to be played into for Haaland to attack. And that panic, the panic that this has given or created for Madrid, has meant that Rudiger's just taken him down in that panic. So these are the small margins, particularly in the Champions League and these really well-equipped teams. These are the small margins you need to win. And as we can see, this was the incident that led to the penalty, and Haaland was able to score that. So whether directly or indirectly, this tactic of freeing Doku up on the left with O'Reilly and Foden, using them to make sure he's not getting double teamed, and if he is, providing a threat forward, led to both goals. So they can be tied to this tactic in and of itself, and I think it's something that teams need to look at going forward, how they're going to counter this effort to try and get Doku in 1v1 situations. And we can see quickly on his heat map just how they were prioritising keeping Doku high and wide to attack from, and his ability to successfully take on players. So we can see he's the furthest forward here, clearly in front of everyone else. He's really the main guy. Lots of heat in this forward half, and if we look at his successful dribbles, we can see, he's really taking it on from this wide space. He's not really taking them on from this half space. And I think that was a clear indication that they were trying to set him up against the winger that was dropping back. They were trying to pull the fullback down here and expose the winger trying to defend across this area. But we'll look at the next point, which I think was quite critical in the game too, really disrupted Madrid, was forcing Courtois to be the main playmaker out of the back. So Pep's pressing tactic was pretty clear, force the least capable ball player to be the playmaker out of the back. And sometimes that's not always the keeper, but this time Courtois really was the weak link in the build-up, and City made that quite obvious. On the press, City closed off all options quickly to ensure the ball was played back to Courtois at some point, and then used that as the trigger to put the squeeze on. So every time the ball was played back, so if we start the ball with one of the CBs for Madrid, every time the ball was played back, we could see the blindsided player attack Courtois. All the players in his direct eye line kind of held their positions, held their markers. So if we see Gonzalez would come up and take this midfielder, Silva would stay here, Foden would press up and take away that centre-back option. Doku made sure that fullback was tied up, and Haaland attacked and curved his run to really stop any play back into this area. And what it did was it forced Courtois to only look this way, but of course all options, as we mentioned, were taken. So he was really forced to play long, which just played into City's hands. They were able to recover possession, and we can see in these following clips that in action. So, they've tied up these two players here with marking. Haaland's kind of waiting for the time to strike. If we let that roll, we can see they've left the centre-back open, and as Foden kind of curves his run to stop any play down the wing, Silva's kind of stopped any play here. You'll actually notice Silva doesn't attempt to attack the keeper. It's actually Haaland. He pulls up. We can see him pull up just there. And Haaland is the one to try and curve his run and force him back down. And just that panic in Courtois, knowing that he's probably not the most capable on the ball, he decides to just pump it long. He doesn't want to risk anything, and he tries to hit these fullbacks that they had high and wide a lot of the time. But with O'Reilly, he's so tall and so good in the air, that's not a big deal for him to at least kill this out of bounds or flick it down and be able to intercept. So this often occurred when Madrid were kind of stuck and City were able to man mark and slowly put the squeeze on. Again, in the next example, we'll see that they've got the same kind of setup. They've got the front three. They've kind of tied up these two and Foden's leaving this ball to the centre-back because they want this played here so then they can attack and then the ball gets played back and Haaland can kind of curve around while Foden has this player tied up, and there's really nowhere short for Courtois to go. He has to go long. So that's really the main play here, and this happened a few times, particularly in the first half. And we can see he doesn't even attempt to play it sideways. He just wants to play it early and long, and just the numbers City are able to have back. We can see just due to the formation, the structure, City have two players against Vinicius Jr. to really win this aerially. They've also got good support on any players dropping back. So that was a key tactic for City, just to dominate a bit of the ball in the first half in particular and really establish their 2-1 lead. If we move on to the sort of just the graph of Courtois' long balls, we can see most of them are pretty inaccurate. These are turnovers, so these are not just inaccurate long balls. These have resulted in turnovers in play, loss of possession. We can see the long ones in particular, just none of them over the halfway line. We can only see two that were actually effective. So this one here and this one here. Otherwise, the rest of them were ineffective. There wasn't many long balls that Courtois played that actually found their man. So that was key for City. And then lastly, we'll just look at how City were able to dominate the tempo. So Pep clearly identified that Madrid wanted an open end-to-end style game where they could really use their speed, particularly on the wings, to really dominate the game. However, City really slowed the tempo at times to really starve Madrid of this opportunity that they wanted. So we can see that even in these types of moments when they're kind of tied up on the flank here, Madrid have got good representation defensively. They've kind of tied everything up, forcing City really to play back. And you know what? City just took that. They didn't try and force the issue. They thought, let's just hold the ball for a bit. Madrid want us to attack. They thought about it there. Nothing was on. They were trying to play through with the numbers on the right. However, they just decided, let's just play back into space and just hold possession. And that kind of frustrated Madrid a bit. And it also played into City's hands as well because Doku was often left high and wide and meant that he was open. So it meant that they had an option out in case they wanted to attack. That was there. Doku was there. And we'll just take a look at another quick example. So again, City win back possession in this scenario. And instead of playing into Madrid's hands and going quickly and exposing the ball a bit, they're able to just settle things down and understand it's better for them to sit on the ball a bit and set up their structure. They were really good at setting up their structure in their half of the pitch and just sitting on the ball for a bit and just killing any Madrid momentum that they were trying to get, particularly early in the game. Like this is in the 8th minute, and I think the one before was kind of in the 12th. But we can see their outlet is always here, and they were just able to find it every time. Madrid really couldn't press extremely well. They were able to get it sometimes, but City always had that out on this flank, and they were able to play through and find it more often than not. With just the numbers they had up here, they're able to play out quite easily and then find the space out here. And Doku is inverted this time, but it still doesn't matter. They've just got so much room here to play out. But there you have it. A quick analysis on how City were able to break down Madrid on their home turf. So can Pep take the City team all the way after his impressive and mature, it must be said, mature win from quite a young side? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Again, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you would like to support the channel and help it grow, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more analysis, as this would always be more appreciated. Very much appreciated. As always, thank you for watching, and may your team be forever winning. Cheers.